Okay, back for another tutorial. Been a while since I've done a tutorial. If you're like me, you've spent the holiday season, watching the classics, Christmas Vacation, Scrooge, Strange Days, all that kind of stuff. So I was asked recently on DeviantArt to do a tutorial just covering my style within Inkscape, just doing some of the artwork that I did within Inkscape. So not covering like the technical side of things, but just sort of how do I go about doing an image. You can see some of my earlier stuff where I work with sort of a comic book image. I like that ink outlined sort of appearance to stuff. And there's a picture of Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse. So yeah, I just thought I'd quickly go over how I go about approaching that. So you can see, I'll turn on the outlines for it and see. I select them all. There's 354 objects. But there's really not that many objects. There's a lot of like little whiskers and beard hairs and stuff. So by themselves, all those hairs account for here's 71 objects. So it's a lot of the picture. But yeah, the actual image itself isn't comprised of that many objects. So, a large part of this was, what's the concept, what's the basis that you're working off of, and in my case, I wanted to do a two-tone picture. So, there's, I think when I researched it, when I looked for a couple of complementary colors, I think they came out as ultramarine and burnt sienna. I'm just going to call them blue and orange for the sake of this tutorial, but that was part of the concept of this, to just work in two hues. So to work in blue, to work in orange, a couple of colors that work well together. And the other part of this was finding an image that I really wanted to work from. I remember a high school art teacher saying that 99% of how well a picture turns out is what you work from in the first place, and I think that's very true. Art teachers lie less to you than any other teacher. All the other teachers lie a whole bunch. Art teachers are pretty much telling you the truth. At least the good ones are. So as far as where I got this reference image from, let's go online and huge fan of Modest Mouse, so let's check out. So time walks in a box, or the ground walks with time in a box. Yeah, one of my favorite songs. Even if I can't get the title quite right. So lots of fantastic imagery in this. You can work from stock models if you want, and they're a great source, and thanks to all the stock photography artists out there who do offer their stuff up. But I think another source is just working from movies, working from videos, and using that as your reference source. And there's just a ton of great imagery in this. There's if you look at this, so much could be taken from this video to be used as a reference. Hair there, it's all really good stuff. Yep, that's great. Really, really good here. So Isaac Brock, he's great. We'll just sort of move along here. Yeah, Yeah, that's another really good one right there. Anyways, I decided to go with something a little bit more subdued, though this would still be really, really good. So I went with something more subdued from his work, you know, a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more contemplative, whatever. Anyways, and so just working from a still frame from that, I have this image here. And so I'm just going to go into a little bit of my process here. So, I mean, if we just take the shirt, the overshirt as an example, you know, not going to trace, just gonna sort of take the pen tool and draw out what I think might be an appropriate shirt. You know, you can trace, and a lot of vector artists, I think, contribute, or sorry, not contribute, but encourage encourage people to trace. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go with just an approximation. I think it works out better for your artwork in general if you just if you don't trace, just draw what you think looks good, and you'll get to the point where, you know, what you do is almost as if you traced, because you know, you'll get really proficient with things. Anyway, so I drew the shirt to some extent. So I'm not actually going to use this as the dark outline. I'm going to show you my outline process for this. What we're actually going to do is the colors first. So like I said, I only worked from the two hues here. So the ultramarine, the burnt sienna, blue and orange, whatever. So we're just going to turn this into a gradient, hit G to get our gradient control tools, and then we're going to select the nodes for the gradient, and then use F7 to do a color picker, and then we're going to choose the 2 points in this. So there we go. So even though I only intentionally selected the two hues, you do see a gradation between them. And now, like I said, I really like the ink outline kind of appearance to this. So what I'm going to do is, there's a quick way to replicate that. So select the object you created, Control D to duplicate, and then fill it in, the solid gradient. Again, we're always going to, in this example, we're just going to use the colors we work from. So we're not going to change the hue, but it's fine to change the hue or the saturation. So, sorry, not going to change the hue, but I'm going to change the saturation of the lightness, and I just drop down the lightness to pretty dark, not 100% black, but I'm going to select it, hit end, send it to the back, and now stretch it out just a bit to create that outline. But there's still some manual work to be done here. With the bottom line, I don't really want it to exist at all. But specific nodes for it, so I'm going to drag those out. And this is frequently done with pictures. If an area of an object is lighter, and if you are going to use lines to outline it, then it makes more sense to actually thin those lines out quite a bit. So here's a lighter area here, so I just used a thinner outline for it. Bring those down quite a bit. And there we go. So same with if an area is heavier, if there's more stress or more weight on a specific area, you might want to thicken the line, the outline near it, and emphasize that heavier aspect. And then from here it's all just details. You know what I mean? I'm gonna hit Control number pad 5 to show the outlines again. You know, from here it's just a lot of details, so you just draw shape by shape. So I mean, we could work on the head next. Don't want to overthink it, just draw yourself out an ellipse. And however you want to do this. I don't work this way anymore, but I used to work pretty extensively with the tweak sculpting method, so we can see what that does. And sort of it is a really cool tool. Again, I would just tend to just use the Bezier pen tool to do most things from here, but if you want to use this tool, it's very cool. Might want to get back into it, actually. Just seeing how it works right now. But yeah, and so then, you know, you've got the freedom to set your gradients. Again, I sort of divided things up, so the lightest 50% of the image was going to be the orange, the darkest 50% was going to be the blue, and so we can just sort of set those if we want. Again, F7 is your color selector, and then we can make choices if we want to I don't know, knock down the any number of things, the saturation, lightness, duplicate it again, change it into that outline, hit end, and whatever, we work on things from here. You know, you work on the the hair. Just gonna do this really rough right here. You know, I've heard it said that 90% of an image is spent on about, you know, 15% of what people actually notice. You know, so you do a lot of the rough stuff first. Maybe that didn't come out quite right. But there we go. So anyways, you know, you work away at it as best you can, and in the end, of course, what you're left with are just a bunch of shapes, and those shapes all contribute to being something recognizable. You know what, this is actually this is way better than what I originally did. Anyway, maybe I should just post this replace the original image. Actually, yeah, that's really cool. Anyways, so I'm gonna leave it there. This is just some thoughts on how I go about my process. So I hope you found this useful, and yeah, subscribe if you like. I'll be back soon with another video. Okay.